Hi, everybody. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, a good day to you, wherever you may be. This is Gifty, and I'm back again for day three of my Volleyball Feature Series, season five. So, yes, the countdown has begun, and this season I have a lot of really good guests that are also going to add to the previous ones I've had before in previous seasons. And we're going to be talking about so many different topics that supports students, supports parents. And today's content topic is going to be very informative. It's going to be fun. It's going to be educational. It's going to be with another baller mom all the way in other parts of the country, which is awesome. So allow me to send her an invitation join us to tell her story of, how she's part of the whole Ball Mom community, the things that she's doing to help everybody. And there she is. Hello, Desiree. How are you? Good evening.
Great, thank you.
Good. I'm going to put my volume up.
Sorry, I'm just adjusting to thank you for having me.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. How's it going down there?
It's great. I mean, we're just in the last days of summer, and it's starting to look like fall, which is always usually my favorite time of year because, well,
Oh, really? So you're in the sweater weather season? Sweater weather? Sweater
oh, it's
weather?
yeah. I couldn't be happier about it, to be quite honest.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's a love and hate for me. I like the colors changing on the trees and a little bit of light jacket, but what that means you're gonna eventually wear heavier jackets, then the boots, then the scarves, then the hat, and
yeah,
yeah, start
yeah.
bundling up. But that's okay. This is Canada, right? Can't complain much. That's all we get.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think with that kind of weather, it keeps everyone in the gym, so it's actually a good thing for us. So
That's
uh,
true. That's
we do
true.
our best work. Then that's where we do our best work. So that's great.
That's true. I like that. Yes, the season has started, which is great because we're out of the whole lockdown COVID thing. So back to regularly scheduled, pre-19 or pre-2019, I should say, era, which is great. But I guess what that comes in makes you very, very busy as well, too. So if you can introduce yourself to everybody, I already mentioned your name, but go ahead and mention who you are, where you're located, and what you do.
For sure. Desaray. I guess the founder and owner of She Plays YYC here in Calgary, Alberta. Um, Started over the pandemic actually. So I think the pandemic brought a lot of changes and a lot of things. A lot of people had to pivot per se during
Mhm.
that adjust. And I would say that time that I had really kind of helped me create something, which was kind of what I had been missing in my own life too. It's just sort of coming back to what I originally love as opposed to what my adult life looked like. So it's
Okay.
you know, pandemic started something new, and in a way where I got to actually really help a lot of ballers, a lot of true hoopers in the Alberta area actually, have a place to go this year after 2 years of lockdown per se. And really had to, it's actually that group, that 2022 age group is near and dear to my heart because a lot of challenges came out of that and to see those true hoopers succeed at that next level after all of the shutdowns and all of the stuff
Yeah.
that
Yeah. I think that age group was the most affected one as well because your season kind of just went done.
for
Yeah.
sure
Yeah.
really changed of what it was going to look like for those future ballers because with another year of eligibility and with injuries and stuff, I mean, there are people that are playing college level on their sixth, sometimes even seventh year because of injuries and lockdown. And,
Hmm.
that's hard to go into when you are 17, 18, 19-year-old kid. Um, so it's really changed the landscape, and it'll be interesting to see what the next 4 or 5 years look like because I know in
Yeah.
Alberta good group of girls, and that's from all over Alberta, not just Calgary. I've been watching these girls for many years, and it's really cool to see how far that they have gone. And quite frankly, I can't wait to watch them all play at the next level because they deserve it.
Yeah. Wow. And they deserve it because you're also helping put them out there, you know, not just in their little community, but you also allowing them for people to see their game, to see their talent, to see their skills. Exactly like when we had the lockdown, all everybody had was videos that you had recorded previously. But
Yeah,
those that fell in that age, there was no school, there was no leagues or clubs. So there wasn't really any video to sort of per se showcase. And if you did, you maybe you show like a year of how you were a year before or 2 years before.
yeah,
But if anybody
yeah.
was looking at you, they couldn't see what your current capability was, which I think was really tough for that age group.
Absolutely. And I mean, just alone, like so many things have shifted in in this athlete age group with, the social media platforms and how everything is changing, and with image and likeness, being available to these players for the first time in history. Like so much change has
Yep.
happened, and they have opportunity to kind of branch off of their social media footprint per se.
Hmm.
A lot of these people are really well versed in social media apps and TikTok, and I mean, I have three teenage daughters, so there's a lot of social media, and that's how they share and receive information. But I noticed
Hmm.
with when it came to sport, I didn't see a lot of girls promoting themselves at their level. They'll promote their dances, or they'll promote their food that they're eating, or where they're traveling, or they'll repost.
Yeah.
A lot don't post about themselves and their sport that they work so hard at, quite frankly. Like you
Hmm.
get to the next level and you start so young and you go through all these steps and stages, and you should promote that. I mean, all over your social media footprint before it even gets to that level.
Yep.
So if you truly want to get to the next level and you want to play post-secondary, or whatever level that may be, Canada, NCAA, I mean, if you want to go play pro or you want to go to Europe, like, I don't know, start now, because the more that people know you, the more they buy into your story, the
Hmm.
more that they promote you and root for you and cheer for you. And it's a really interesting time to be a female. And over the pandemic, it was a way of me helping my own daughters stay connected and feel that they are still doing something, and to stay motivated in that time to keep pursuing their passion, even though it's so challenging right now.
Yeah.
And in all of that, I had so much footage, because in my previous life, before I was a mom and whatnot, was I used to work in the film industry, and so it was just sort of all of this stuff coming back to me, and having just the time to actually um, at first sneak my way into a gym and stream a game for the other parents, because none of us were allowed in the gyms. So
Yes. Yes. I remember those days.
right, so um, and then it just sort of spun out from there. So I mean, there's a lot of levels to what She Plays is and what it was and where I would like it to eventually go. But we had a pretty good trajectory within the last year and a half. I only started in January of last year, and to see the growth and to see the collaborations and partnerships that we're kind of cultivating through the country and across the province is really exciting to sort of see. It's a great time.
Yeah, I love that. I love it. I love it. And I like that you also mentioned about don't be shy to showcase your skills. It's okay to show other people too, but it's also good to show your skills. It's great to dance. I mean, I watch TikTok and I don't even try doing the dance. I just watch. And I go for the jokes and that's
No,
it. Yeah. I leave that to them. It's okay.
agreed. And that's
Yeah.
that's the way that they connect, and I get that. I absolutely, like, that's what makes you connect. But also in that opportunity and in that transaction of connecting with someone, why don't you show them what you do? Like,
Yes.
the girls in this country are doing is pretty amazing. And it's
Yeah.
it's not just one province, or it's not just one city or one community. Like, yes, Ontario has been a powerhouse for a long time, and rightly so. Like, you got the
But Quebec is coming,
oh
Calgary
yeah,
is coming, Scotia's
yeah.
coming. Yeah.
And that's one thing I've learned this summer, because I've had such a good opportunity to go work out in the East with a few people and, collaborate with different, companies and schools and coaches and mentors along the way. And you realize how small the community is, but then also how big it is too.
It is. Yes.
And there's a lot of misinformation. There's a lot of, there's just a lot of challenges that we still face. And, our province versus, let's say, your province are ran extremely differently. Out there, it's prep schools. I don't even know how many you guys actually have, but I know
I don't even know either, but there's a lot.
Right?
Yeah. And that's even just within the Toronto and surrounding area alone. There's a lot.
Right. And like out here, no. Like we have in Alberta, I believe 3. And out of those 3, only one of them has girls, because our girls in this province are very, very good, and at the high school level are very good, and they have, we have access to a lot of trainers, which I think is a big difference too. We are very lucky where we have like 3 kind of areas within Alberta where you can find a big talent pool. So it's at least accessible. If you can't get to Calgary, you can get to Edmonton. If you can't get to Edmonton, you can get to Lethbridge. And then you have, the rising communities out in like Raymond, Alberta, or Medicine Hat, or Red Deer. Like there is some communities of hoopers out here. It's just, we're all very spread out, right? And I know you guys have triple the population that I think, even probably more than that than we do. So, and we're not as densely populated. We're very far from one another. So
it's a huge land. Yeah,
it is a huge land. And like for instance, out there, you guys will reclass a lot in the time in grade 8, 9, 10, 11, or no, sorry, grade 9, 10, 11, 12, where out here reclassing is not really anything at all, unless you are, I guess, at a prep school, which again, there's only 3. So
wow.
It's very, very different. But it's cool to see that, with the social media and with the connection, I think, with all of the creators and clubs, or even, like Canleets and all of, like, Coach Mom, yourself, we are all starting to connect with one another and share information from an actual place of trying to be unbiased and trying to share information with one another and really give each other a good perspective of what each province is dealing with, because it's extremely different. And Quebec is a completely different.
It's a whole different language, first of all.
Right? But hoopers out there, but they're ran completely different than the rest of the country. And it's amazing when you actually go out and you compete against one another, and it's like, oh, I get it now. Like, I get it.
Yep. We've been to Montreal. We've seen it's a different mindset, different. I mean, in the end, it's all still playing sports, but it's just, like you said, it's ran differently. And everybody still has the same goal, which is great. And as you mentioned, even though we're, across the country, a different location, the fact that there's that social media aspect of it, the digital aspect of it, is one way that's connecting everybody, so you don't feel so alone in your small town versus big city or anything like that. You can still showcase your talent and get others to see your game. Now, you did talk about, you had so many footages, and I'm one of those parents that I'm always recording during the game, and that's one way. I either record and be quiet and just let the camera do the work, or I just cheer loud and just go crazy, because I can't do both. Because if I do, then all you hear is my voice on the recordings, and that's, it's hard. But knowing that you had all that footage of your kids, and you didn't know what else to do with it. There are some of us that's like, okay, I have it. What else can I do with it? But my kid is, let's say, 12 years old or 11 years old, and should they keep their account private, or should they make it public? Should they create like a sports account with it? Like, what are some of the things that you would tell some of their parents that come to you, say, hey, Desiree, did you get that video shot of my daughter? Do you mind sending it to me? But what do I do with it?
Yeah. I would say to any parent, footage. Just start recording now, because I can say that when I started recording my own kids, I was terrible at it. I'm screaming, I'm yelling. They were really not good when they first started, so I got really excited when they did something that was really simple, right? And so the older that they got, the better that I got too. I mean, if you ask my kids, they'll probably say completely something different, and that's fair enough. Their truth is their truth, and
Yeah.
that I'm quiet, but they'll tell you that is not true and that I'm loud. But I can tell you that when I'm emotionally connected to something, you will hear me. It's hard not for me to get excited for them, right?
Yeah.
For myself, I've had kids playing competitive sports at different age levels, so I know the girls in Alberta. It doesn't matter what age level. I have one that's just entering U Sport, and I have one that just was an alternate on the Team Alberta and is now going to,
Wow.
go to grade 10. So like I've gone through all different levels, and we've done, multiple different clubs. We've trained. We've taken breaks from training. It's really important that parents know when they're going through this, it's what works for your own child. Um, and if your child is comfortable with it, try maybe having a sport account, right? And what I mean by that is, it's a sport account. You're giving just the basics. You don't have to put necessarily the last name. You could put first name and then just sort of give, your basics.
Mm-hmm.
As you go through this, though, you're going to lose less and less control, because there's so many people in the stands. There's so many creators. There's so many people filming. It helps you and it can hinder you too. But if you control the narrative, I mean, with my own daughters, it started as a dual account. So we both started an athlete account, and so I had access to it, they had access to it.
That's a
Sometimes they
good
didn't.
point. That's a good point.
Yeah, you need to be in there, like
Yeah.
there, because you need to be connected and you need to know who's reaching out to your child. Uh,
Exactly. There's a lot of weirdos out there.
yeah, 100%. And
Yeah.
so you need to have that control aspect. And then as my daughter and I have gone through this together, and now she's legally her own adult and, graduated high school this year, is now there in her first freshman year of university, like the different levels have changed, because now I get access to nothing. And that's great as well.
Yeah.
Is that my job? I've helped my daughter go through the steps of this, and to help her navigate it. Sometimes I'm pushing her out of her comfort zone. Sometimes she's telling me to, hey, mom, you need to listen to me. You got to stop. I'm like, okay, you're right.
Yeah.
It's not always easy. She would be the first to tell you that too, but she would also be the first to follow it up as, thank God we did this, because we had to endure the COVID years. Plus there was injuries along the way. She had like a third-degree tear 2 times in 1 year in her grade 10 year, didn't make it to zones. And even if she would have made it to zones and then provincials, COVID would shut them down like 3 days later anyways, and then
Wow.
2 years, and then to lose your grade 12 year because of an ACL tear. And then it's like, oh my gosh, like this dream of this kid that she's been chasing and working so hard for, is it
Mm-hmm.
over? And a lot of people would have said, yeah, like an ACL tear was a career ender when I was in school. Like that was it, like
Yeah.
think about Cheryl Miller, like she was slated to be the next big thing. She was going to rule the WNBA, and
Yeah.
torn
She got
out,
injured.
injured. That's
Yep.
it, right? And like that was the way it used to be. And now some of our best players on the national team, the provincial teams, on NCAA, I mean, U Sport, professional WNBA, like lots of people tear their ACLs, and
Yep. And you just go
it,
through the training and treatments and come back and continue, which is a great thing. And I think also with that, being said, that's just another way to still keep active. Let people know how
Oh,
you're healing, how you're, going through it, because it becomes more personable. So that's where the social aspect comes in, correct?
absolutely, absolutely. I can't tell you how many parents or how many players have reached out either to myself or to my daughter just to be like, hey, how are you? Or, oh no, like my daughter just did the same thing. Like they told me this, that, and the other. And I was like, yes, I got told that too. But then I tried this route and then I tried that route. And it's like when you're looking at these athletes and you have a short window
Mm-hmm.
and against COVID and you're up against 6 years of eligibility, um, it's hard. And what is so good about capturing those moments and showing what you're comfortable with showing and giving coaches an idea and recruiters an idea of who you are as a person and not just an athlete.
Thank
You know,
you.
it matters. Your tangibles matter. Your work ethic is so important. Your mental game is so important. And sometimes the kids that have had those setbacks and have those injuries and have had those, you know, experiences with either poor coaches or bad clubs or whichever, like it makes a lot of girls leave sport. Like 64% of girls leave sport at the age of 16 and 17.
16. Yeah,
That is horrific. That's
yeah,
horrific.
yeah.
And the one thing that I think as a female, as a mom, what's been missing is the soft skills and are those, the emotional intelligence. And we often train the fundamentals. But are you training for that connection? Are you training for that empathy, that character, your integrity, your you get up and try again after you've failed, because failure is part of the game. you
Yes.
know?
Yep. Yep. How you come back up once you fall down. That's amazing. And I like that how you mentioned, you being with your daughter along the way. For example, having that dual account. It wasn't just, okay, you go ahead, use my email, create an account, and just go ahead and do it. But you have visibility to it. We may not know their terms, but at least you have visibility to what's going on, who's actually
Yeah.
liking the things they say or post, who is viewing their videos. Even if it's
Yeah.
private or a sports account, you can set it up in a way that either best thing I always say is set up as a creator, because you get more options, especially for Instagram. Always go the creator route. It makes you get more accessibility for whatever reason. This platform caters more to the creator content aspect of it. So I
What I,
always recommend, yeah, just do it that way. You don't have to put, student or anything. People will know that's who you are based on the certain things that you post, which is great.
yeah. And then it's got to be mutual. I can say, like, I've made a lot of mistakes along the way, and a lot of the times I go and post something that she wasn't comfortable with, and then she would either text me or call me and be like, "Yo, mom,"
I've been there.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah, and I'm like,
yeah.
okay, but it
Quickly
was
take
cool.
it down.
But it's really not that good. I'm like, okay, you're fair, you're correct, right? And but I also, then there's also that side of me that it's like, we started her athlete profile account in 2017. So flash forward 5 years later, COVID, ACL injury, this, that, and the other. I can 100% say that she probably wouldn't have gotten a scholarship if we didn't have that history of footage. And when I'm talking about footage, I'm not just talking about just the highlights. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we showed the progression of the athlete. We showed, you saw when she didn't have the best form. You saw when she didn't have really good handles. You saw the failure on there too, because I feel like, from a kid's perspective, which is really hard to share sometimes because kids are super cruel, and middle school and high school is really not that much fun. And after having three daughters go through it, it's like 100% verify as a parent, it's not fun. And it's really hard to kind of navigate both worlds, but then also convince them that you are good enough, smart enough, strong enough. Like, do not dim your light and do not make yourself smaller to make other people feel comfortable, because that's not why we do this. And the
Wow.
older, the more comfortable I get in my own skin, the more I'm okay with showing and telling you my failures. All of those things that I was petrified to tell you when I was younger, like petrified, because they think they got to be perfect to everybody. And really, it is a small time in your life when you're a teenager, and it is brutal and it is hard. And I think when you're trying to raise a kid, like an elite athlete, um, you're raising an elite person. You're raising an elite student, because this
Yep.
is not the sport of basketball. Yes, you're using the sport of basketball as an avenue and as a trajectory to get to A, B, and C, but you're getting a really good education and amazing experience, lifelong friends along the way.
Yes.
And that is the most invaluable thing that you're getting.
I agree. You touched on so many good points. Oh my goodness. And I love the fact that I'm gonna code this for you. You know, do not dim your light to make others comfortable. That's jam. That's gonna be my quote for tomorrow. I'm gonna make sure everybody use that, and I'm gonna refer it to you and give you the credit for that for sure, because it is so true that often we find a way to sort of feel like if I put somebody else's there, like, oh, my shots didn't go in, so I'm not going to show it. Oh, I didn't really make that move right, so I'm not going to show it. It doesn't matter. So like you're saying earlier, show all aspects of your game, not just only when the ball goes in. Show
They're
how
not
you pass to somebody.
shooters.
Show how you cut the ball. Show that, okay, you missed a layup. That's okay. That's
One,
fine too.
one,
Yeah.
you know what? Not every player is the same, right? Like, for instance, I have three daughters. Two of them are, I will say, identical twins, but they're not really identical. But to the rest of the world, they are identical. And I have, and they're the ones that are 18 and a half and graduated. And then I have a 15-year-old. Well, the twins are like 5'10", 5'11", but my 15-year-old has been holding at 5'4" for the last 3 years. So when you're looking at them even as athletes, the way that they train is different. The way that they play is different. The responsibilities on them is different. Whereas my older daughter is more of a utility player, can play several different positions and
Mm-hmm.
can take it inside and shoot outside, and she's a threat. Whereas my 5'4" daughter is a point guard, as
Yeah.
most shorter people are. So the responsibility on her is completely different, because she's controlling the momentum of the game. She's the captain. She's the right hand of the coach. And so sometimes that means making the smart decision. And sometimes that is putting herself third, fourth on the list of, the highlight reel, because it was more of her responsibility to set this person up, knowing who's got the shot, knowing who doesn't have the shot, knowing if I go and pass to this person, like, the responsibility is completely different.
Yep.
And that's been the beauty of it, is watching them both sort of help each other and educate each other along the way. And then from a bigger sister of like telling her all these things and that and this and that and this. And then now to see the little one rise and being like, actually,
Yeah.
so it's a really cool dynamic to see them. And to know that their differences are celebrated for many different reasons. And, girls really run themselves 99.9%.
Yes, I know. Being a teenager before. Yeah.
Right? We overthink everything, and nobody's going to be harder on you other than yourself.
Herself. Exactly. Exactly. Now, another point I wanted to find out from you is once you get the video, because we just talked about showcasing certain aspects of it.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I bring my charger and just so my phone can keep charging when I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned to find a way to sort of pause in between or make a note as to during the game where certain moves were done. So that I'm good at it when I have to sit down, I can do the editing part of
Yeah.
it. So for parents who are like, well, I can't tape the whole 20, 40 minutes game. I don't have the memory on my phone. Okay, maybe I'm going to buy extra, whatever. But now what do I do? Like, talk to
Yeah.
us through about the editing aspect of it and show, how you go about it to say, okay, these are how to remember where the key points are to pull it to be able to
Mhm.
showcase. Because even when you're putting on, say, Instagram or YouTube, you can go a lot longer in terms of hours, which is great. But if you want short, you know, right to the point type of things, or either on TikTok or Instagram, the attention span is very short. And people
Yeah.
are not going to sit there for like 5 hours and watching in between halftime breaks, all of that stuff. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
walk us through some of the key points that you look for when you're trying to shorten it out and give that, you know, content of editing to make sure that that's the key point that people need to see.
Yeah. I think now this might be hard to hear for some people, but I also think as a parent, we need to be realistic about where our child is at and what you are showcasing. Make like, is it the right thing to showcase? Um, you know, as a content creator and as someone who is literally helping people get to the next level by either streaming or either videoing or whichever, um, I find the easiest is to obviously go on. I mean, if and film when your kid is on, obviously try to grab as much
Mm-hmm.
as that as possible. Um, also understand, I understand when my own child is having a good game or a bad game, and I don't need to get it all. And however, sometimes there is moments of greatness in those videos where I'm like,
Yes,
oh, there
I
it
miss
is,
that.
there.
Yeah.
Um, and it's, as someone who spends a lot of time in the gym, it's really hard to go back and find that one moment of greatness. Now, understand what you're creating, because I would say if you're creating a highlight reel, you want to do it no longer than 3 minutes max. You want to make sure that in that first minute you are showcasing the best moves of your child's. You need to keep those coaches, as you just said. You said the attention span, like it's there and then it's gone. If you
Yeah.
don't go 2 minutes, I'm pressing next or sliding up, right? Like it's that's reality. That's reality for even grown adults. Like
Yes. Our time is like that.
yeah, and all coaches have seen many a highlight reels. And you know,
Mhm.
there are fewer good ones than bad ones, and that should be the case. I mean, at the end of the day, only 1% of the population gets to go and do this. So if this was easy, everybody would do it, right? So you got to make sure that you put your best of your best in that first minute of your highlight reel. And then maybe in your next 2 minutes or your next 3 minutes, you're now going to showcase aspects of your game that makes you different from everybody else. Because at the end of the day,
I like
you,
that.
you're looking for the right fit, right? And I say this to my own daughters all the time, because I mean, you don't go through this without rejection. And I remind them over and over again, if it was easy, everybody would do it. If it was easy, everybody would do it. And as long as you are remembering this when you're going through those awkward times of the rejection, or you're not right for us. It's not that you're not the right person, you're not the right baller. You might not be the right position. Like
Mhm.
legitimately, they've got too many point guards.
Yes.
That is really terrible for you if you're a point guard. Like,
Mhm.
but there is many other options out there, and not everyone's path is going to be the same. It's not going to be a straight path. It's not going to be linear. And this is hard. This is hard, hard, hard. And if you love this game, you can go very far with it and do amazing things with it and connect with people and learn other cultures and represent your country. And, you know, and isn't that awesome
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
you can do that,
Yeah.
right? Don't take a moment of this for granted. And you want to capture as much as you can, but be realistic in what you're showing, and make sure that if you can erase the emotion from the
Mhm.
actual skill. That can be the hardest part sometimes, is that, you know, you've been watching your kid for X amount of years and they go out and have this really awesome night where they drop 25 baskets and this, that, and the other. Well, I can tell you, as a recruiting standpoint, on the other side of it, if you're dropping 25 points in a game, I want to know what the other team is like. Like, I
Yeah.
want to,
Were
I
they
want to,
at the same level, or was
yeah,
it different level? If you dominated and the winning team was like 40-10, really, it's not a big of a highlight to show. I know.
it's not. And it might have been a great individual game for you, but I need you to know as a unemotionally connected person to your child, it is not what the coach is necessarily seeing. You
Mm-hmm.
know, not just looking for the shots either. They're looking at your body language. 95% of how we communicate is based on body language. And I wish that that was drilled in by every community coach, every rep coach, every prep coach, every college coach, every university coach. Your body language and how you project yourself out to the rest of the world matters.
Mm-hmm.
And your character and your integrity on and off the court matters. And if you want to go to this next level and play at that elite level and go and do all the things that basketball could give you the ability to go and do, remember that you are putting yourself out there and on display, and that is all parts of it, not just what you do in a 90
Wow.
minute.
I'm so glad you touched on that as well too, because body language is definitely key. You may not be the fastest on the court, but
Mm-hmm.
if you're there for 2 minutes and you are definitely on target, preventing somebody from even throwing the ball from the opposition team, like that's key. Like your feet is moving, your hands are moving, your eyes are moving, you're doing what you got to do to prevent it. So yeah, definitely body language is key. If you're on the, you know, on the end of it and you're just clapping for a ball but you're not moving, nobody's gonna see you. Like you gotta be moving. If you have an open shot, go in. If you're walking on the court, board, if you're sitting on the bench, board, all of those things are key points. And you're right, body language is key, and how you project it, as you said, definitely matters because it's all part of how you're being assessed as an athlete. I like that. I like that. That's so true.
And in all honesty, I think it's something that we don't get more comfortable with as we get older, but the way that we connect with people is actually by sharing our setbacks and by sharing our personal failures, by sharing what we learned in the process and then the outcome of it. Because I don't know about you, but most of my failures in life have led to bigger, better opportunities or completely got me out of my comfort zone, which I needed to get out of my comfort zone, right?
Yeah.
And like even as a 43-year-old mom, I have imposter syndrome just like all of the other kids and all of the other people. And I mean, it's not easy for our generation to flip the switch and put ourselves in front of the camera.
I
Uh,
know. I'm learning slowly. I'm sort of still getting comfortable, but I know what you mean. Yeah.
and really at the end of the day, my job as a parent and even as I guess you'd say influencer, or I would like to say disruptor. I really like to disrupt things as opposed to necessarily influence things, but
I like that.
I is to challenge people to not listen to the voice in their head and to to not give up so quickly. Like honestly, nothing is given, it's earned, and it is hard, and but there are so many life lessons and so many valuable things that you can get from any competitive sport. But stick with it. It's
Stick with
like
it.
you stick with it. The people you meet along the way, the coaches, the mentors, I don't know many people that played at the next level that didn't have their bridesmaids in their bridal party from their college or university team. Like these are lifelong people that you end
Yeah.
up tips with.
And did you yourself play sports though when you were growing up?
I did play until high school, at the end of high school, and then I injured out, and by no means was I at the level or skill that these kids are at. I mean, let's be real. Like these, I think in North America, or especially within Canada, um, our world landscape really changed when the Raptors and the Vancouver Grizzlies were both inducted 20 something years ago.
Yes.
That's where Canada sort of turned on, and it became like the largest growing sport in North America since then. And so I believe the landscape of athletes right now, or a lot of them are like first generation athletes, where they are the first in their family to play any kind of rep basketball, any type
Mm-hmm.
of prep basketball. I mean, reclassing, what? I thought only kids in the States did that. Like, so all of these things I think are, definitely in that like Steve Nash and Carter era where it's like we all fell in love with basketball. Therefore, our kids were then put into basketball. Because I don't remember growing up where there was club basketball. It was, I
Just
don't even remember.
school. It was
It was
all
just,
just through school.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
there's no, yeah. And so luckily, um, we got an expansion team a couple decades ago. So since then, you have a lot of next level athletes. And you know, you definitely see that, I think, in places that have had like the Olympics as well, right? So it's like you'll have training facilities in like Montreal, Calgary, Vancouver, that many of those cities wouldn't have gotten, and maybe some of those sports would have never been accessible to prior to, but then because of the Olympics and all of the, you know, it lights up a new generation of kids, right? And
Yeah.
you know,
And I think what's happened is also help with the youth sports aspect of it too. Both
yeah,
college and university level helped all of them to also increase your programming and support for student athletes in their program to say, hey, yes, we know you're here for your degrees or diploma, but you're also representing our school. You can travel across the country, compete against other provinces, other schools, and get that full experience. So I think, you know, you're
yeah,
right. Like, sports is not just one way of just being the athlete. There's so many different avenues, and one of it is the ability to travel, like see places
100.
that you never saw, right? And I think somewhere in the summer you were here in Toronto, in Ontario, and how was that experience for you?
Oh, honestly, I can't thank Sharon and her family from Coach Mom
Yeah,
enough.
yeah,
It was a. I'm all about sharing. I'm all about learning from other people, and I mean, she was ahead of the game, right? I think, and to share the wealth of knowledge and information along the way, um, I think just only helps grow the game, right? It
hmm
helps parents of those first generation athletes know there's resources that are available to them. You know, because I know that the competition is steep out there. I know that it's prep is a huge thing out there, much bigger than it is out in the West. And as a parent, sometimes there is cultural gaps, generation gaps, parents that are like, basket, what? Who? Right? Like,
yeah.
live and die by the sport and know like their kids' stats from when they were like 4 years, right? Like there's all different levels
There's
of it,
different.
and it's
Yep. You gotta have one that knows so much because they used to
yeah,
play and this is it, versus the ones that
right,
are like, huh, what are you talking about? What do you mean?
right.
Again?
But it's so nice that people like yourself and like her and some of the people that I met out there are all sharing their information, and that's not surprising because that's what moms do, right? Like
Yep.
competitive sports moms, sometimes we all compete against each other. But at the end of the day, it is about the greater good. And I have yet to meet a mom that isn't their child's biggest fan, right? And that's fine. That is absolutely fine. But if you need some help along the way, you don't know, you never played basketball, you don't know basketball, you know, single parents. I am a product and a child of an 18-year-old mom. And I mean, there was lots of people along the way that helped. And there was resources that were available to them, and there's community organizations that are out there. And I think that is one thing where we are behind, let's say, in Ontario, because you guys have kind of been at the forefront of basketball, and now it's like spreading and spreading. And so I think it is absolutely amazing when you can come to another province where really you guys are the go-to of Canadian basketball, and you can learn from one another and share from one another, and like, oh, well, now this makes sense. Because when I came out there, I received a lot of questions, or like, why doesn't the West come out and train or compete against the East? And I was like, well, first
It's
off,
not that easy.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, it's not. I mean, we do, but not at your level. And you know, there's a lot of dual sport athletes out here too. So
Okay.
a lot of our basketball players, our volleyball players, our soccer players, and so that is the beauty of the dual athlete. But at the same time, it kind of makes going to a prep basketball school 11 months, you know, training with the same team 11 months out of the year a little bit more challenging when you're trying
Yeah.
to volleyball and wrestling and, you know, all of the other sports that kind of like basketball's a long season.
Yes, it's a full year now, literally, and this is literally
100%.
how I started because we started with soccer and then we were doing both, and at some point you had to make a choice because you can't
Yeah.
divide yourself three times and you can't let one team down versus the other. You know, you can't be running from one end of the city for one game and then cross over to another side of the city and your whole day is dedicated. Like it was just crazy. You might end up wearing like a basketball jersey on a soccer field, probably, right? So we had to sit down and make a decision, pick
Yeah.
one and dedicate it and support it. Doesn't mean you're not talented or skilled. It's just that work on the one that you like and craft it out really well. And I think it's good in a way, but I also agree with the growth here that's happening gives us a lot of options. And sometimes with options, also you have to be very careful which ones you pick because then everybody is offering you the same deal. It's hard to understand which is better. So it's a give and take either way. Sometimes it's best to have small in quantity versus large in, so small in quality versus large in quantity. So it all depends. But like you said earlier, as long as you understand your child's level and their
Yeah.
skills and understand who needs to be with them along the way, that makes it a lot easier, correct?
100%. And not every kid fits the same. Like, you know, I said I have twins. I mean, they played both together until they were 15. And then one of them is like, you know, this is really my jam. I really prefer music. I prefer this. And I was like, thank you for telling me, you know, because well, I don't want you to be doing something that you're not all in because I'm one of those people. It's like, okay, I always say, I'm like, I may not do a lot of things, but what I do, you better make sure that you know I'm going to do it. I'm going to show
Yeah.
up, produce, I'm going to train. Like, that is my responsibility. I'm going to be early to practice. I'm going to give you my eye contact. I'm going to be like, good job, coach. I'm going to ask for feedback. Like, I need the full circle. And that's what these recruiters are looking for at the end of the day is the full
Mm-hmm.
circle. What kind
Mm-hmm.
of student you are, what kind of person you are. They're looking at your social media too. Like, don't get yourself wrong.
Yes.
Like, and that's the thing is if you're going to put yourself out there, know what you're putting out there may have ramifications
Yeah.
because it may mean that you don't get an offer at a school that you wanted because of what you showed on your Visco.
I
Because
always say that. Like, even if you comment on somebody else's page, it still comes back. The internet doesn't die, it never dies. And even if you delete it, it's still there. There's a
it's there,
server in the cloud that could be found 15,
right?
20 years from now. I know. So I always say, because I do coding, I always say that's like one key thing. So to the kids who are watching, are going to watch later, just even if your account is private and you chit chatting with your friends, it's still not private. Just be
No.
very, very careful.
And like, I mean, we've all been through middle school, and I think I can safe to say, thank God there wasn't cell phones when I was in school and high.
Yep, I agree. I agree.
It will help you, but it is also dangerous. It is a double-edged sword. But at the same time, if you control what you put out there and if you control what you want people to see, you got to be somewhat on a level of being okay to show everything.
Hmm.
Show the dirty, show the missed baskets, show when you were not good at handles because every tall girl works at shooting and no one works at handles if they're tall. And then all of a sudden it becomes when you're older, you're like, oh, should have worked on my handles, right?
Yeah.
But me what your handles now look like 2 years later. You know, show me the girl that was afraid of contact when she didn't like taking it into the paint and she didn't know how to use her body. Now show me her using her body because they're not just recruiting the athlete, they're recruiting the potential, they're recruiting the work ethic. Everyone says work ethic breeds talent, and that is true, you know, because the workers will outwork you eventually,
Yeah.
and you will,
Yeah.
you know. And for instance, my daughters all the time, my youngest one, I was like, so when you go into showcases and when you go into, you know, Team Alberta provincials or Team Canada showcase or whichever, why are you always shooting? Like, show me the girl who's on the sidelines doing her handles, because that's actually what
Hmm.
I'm not really concerned about your shot that you're taking with 50 other girls on the same free throw line. I really don't care. I want to see the grind, right? And that's important. And I will, when I was with Coach Mom, Aaliyah Edwards shared a story, and it's really not my story to share, but I think I'm going to do it anyways.
Yeah, no, go
Because
ahead, because not everybody was able to attend, but for sure, this is
no,
knowledge
no,
sharing.
such a good story because, and if anyone is lucky enough to meet the Edwards family and spend some time with them, the knowledge that they just share
It's a
is,
gem.
it is amazing. And what a lovely, lovely family. And genuine, just very genuine. And it's
Yeah,
so that when these fans of Aaliyah Edwards can go and hear her story and hear the grind and all of that, because that does matter, right? So
hmm
she gets up and she talks about her recruiting, and everyone's like, of course, you know, all these little girls are raising her hand, and it's like, well, how like, how did you get to UConn? How did you get to Team Canada, or whatever it may be? And so she's like, well, you know, I did track first, I did volleyball first, and if you know the family, they're very, very dual athletes,
athletics, yes, yeah.
right? So she was just an all-around athlete, athletic kid, and you know, I'm pretty sure there's not a sport that she probably could not do. But she tells the story of when she first met Gino, and she talks about she was, you know, I believe at this time she was probably already with Crestwood, and she was talking about how she did all this, and somewhere within the game there was an injury. There's someone got knocked down. She didn't elaborate if she was a part of it or if any other reason, but what Gino saw was at the end of the game, Aaliyah got up after the handshakes or whatever. She went and she checked on the other player that had got in.
Wow.
So that is what impressed him more than her. I'm sure athletics would probably impress him too, but
Yeah.
that was what started the conversation. Something like that.
As your character, as to who you are as a player, as an athlete, as a human, of
To
course.
him,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, you know, I'm pretty sure she would had many offers and would have gone very far to multiple different schools throughout North America and is going to have a very long career. But I can tell you that she's a pretty cool person.
Yeah.
And most of these athletes are. Like, we have a few U Sport, NCAA players that are from Alberta too. And, you know, a few of them, you know, have gone on to play for like either Oregon or Gonzaga or Memphis, and throughout many different places in that. And the thing is that they'll come back and they will go and volunteer their time and know their previous club or run a showcase or do a coaching event, and that just it does wonders for the community at large.
Exactly. I think it also helps because you're doing similar to the same thing where you're also allowing them to feel comfortable when they're on the court.
Mm-hmm.
For me as a parent, if I'm in the game and I see you there, I'm like, okay, I don't have to worry about my phone. I know that Desiree is there. She may capture. I can reach out to her to get any tips or get a certain footage and get that feedback. And that's good because you're becoming a pillar within your community that is giving that comfortableness to the kids when they're on the court. Don't worry about your angles. Just do your thing. And if it's good
Yeah.
shots, whatever it is, it's okay. And then when you need to showcase it, you can showcase it and it'll speak for itself. And I think that is great because when I came across you, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Because typically, you get the dads doing the recordings or with your little camera statue on the corner doing it, chit chat, their
Yeah.
tablets and everything. And I'm just with my phone going this way. But to see like another female out there in that field, in that industry doing it, and not just only for herself, but she's doing it for others. I just like wanted to, give you applause for that because it's not easy, but it's still something that's so much needed for that. And the fact that you're able to connect virtually or even in person to other parents who may not be able to travel with the kids, but they can still
Yeah.
see their kids play because
Yeah.
of your accessibility in giving them that window to view it. I think that's also amazing and recommendable. So kudos to you for that. It's great. I love it. I love it. I love it. Yeah.
It's been because when I started, I must say it was I did not see it turning into this. However, it has, and now like I do a lot of work for boys too. I travel with teams, and you know, I have a lot of connections along the way. I just don't necessarily post about the boys on my page, but
That's okay.
it's about them having the accessibility to content that is A, good, B, user friendly. And
Mhm.
that's the thing. We're, you know, bring it back to when, you know, what do you do with all this footage? And it is hard because not everyone's got a giant computer, like, and all the gigs and terabytes and stuff like that. And it takes forever to download and process and then move over and then cut it together. And then it's like, ugh, all the, like, I've
Yeah.
seen a lot. I've seen a lot of bad videos, but there's always good moments within there. I'd say to parents, film as much as you can, but I can count, I've got kids that have been in this game for a long time, and I can count on one hand how many phenomenal games I've had. And I mean, beginning to end, you know, transition, shooting, defense, offense, body language, like about full circle, because what happens is when you have this highlight reel and you start those conversations with the coaches and recruiters, that starts the conversation and might get you the attention.
Mm-hmm.
But ask for the full game footage. And you want to be able to go to your memory bank and be like, that one game that
That's
you
the
had.
one.
Yeah, that one game you had against that team that was brutal. It was a fight. It was like moments of greatness. It was like, oh my God, are they going to come back? Like, you know, all of those things. Like, literally, I can count on one hand. My own kid has maybe 4 or 5 of those games.
Wow.
But you know, I have them on footage. I
Yeah.
have it on video.
And what, okay,
And
so one thing is when you have it on footage with regards to the platform to post.
mhm.
Like I was saying before, some platform, you know, have a shorter attention span versus let's say
Yeah,
YouTube. So
yeah.
should the kids or the parents be creating accounts on all levels of platform, or should they dedicate to one area per se? Maybe just only Instagram and then tweet about it, or only TikTok, or they should actually have like a YouTube channel where they just upload the full amount and then use Instagram for snippets of it.
It's hard to say, and that's a very good question because based on your age, your region, your culture, your ethnicity, all of that, you might use a different platform than I use,
True.
right? Even based on your age, like the most successful social media platform is still Facebook and YouTube and Google. Why? Because it's been around the longest.
Yeah.
So yes, TikTok is rising. Yes, you know, LinkedIn and all of these new ones, Discord, Twitch, like you name. I
Even
mean,
Pinterest has it.
Pinterest. You have all these apps to go to all these different places, and there's so many. I do, to be quite honest with you, I don't necessarily know what the right answer is. I know
Okay.
what's worked for us. YouTube or Instagram is it's kind of a neutral platform between the millennials and the Generation X's and whatnot. So it's something that they all use. But if you're looking at video content and growth, you're going to be looking at the TikToks, you're going to be looking at YouTube. Now, when you have a YouTube account, you don't have to make all your videos public. You can make them, you can make it private, you can make it to a link. And YouTube is, I want to say this in the nicest way to our generation, it is one of the easiest platforms with the highest bit rate and quality that coaches would use. It's easy,
Okay.
right? And so if I have a YouTube account, I can put all of my kids' name, stats, and whichever, but nobody can necessarily see it but me. I can still make it private, but the video I've uploaded on there, there's a link. I can send it to you. Um, you know, in Calgary, girls out here have been very lucky because I have filmed a lot of their games. And in the beginning, it was to really help them and to really allow their grandma and grandpa out in St. John's or out in, you know,
Mm-hmm.
Vancouver to watch the game. It was a way of connecting the community that was really just dying to get back into a gym. Um, I do believe that there is a benefit in live streaming. Now you can live stream in the moment and in the game, but then you can even make the live stream private afterwards as well. Because once YouTube has that live stream, it's always going to be there until you, the creator, delete it. So it's always there for you. And so when you can hire content creators or streamers like myself, um, whatever you want is really what I offer. It's like, do you want it public? Do you want it private? Do you want it 3 camera, 2 camera, 1 camera? Like, do you want me to just do a highlight reel? Like, there's different aspects of the things that I can do and what She Plays can do, and we're evolving and growing as we speak. And it's, you
I love
just
it
want,
though. I love it. I love it that you're in that field and that sector, and you're not just doing the content. I mean, you had the educational background, you had the career support, you have the mom experience, you have the
Mhm.
on-court experience, on all sports of it, the good, the bad, the boring, whatever, all of it, the experience of it. So when you're talking to anyone, say, hey, you're inviting me to your game, this is what I'm going to offer you. You're speaking from an authentic place with, experience. And it's not just, I'm just going to record your video on my personal phone and then send it to you as a Google link or anything like that. This is what I'm going to do for you. I'll edit or put your picture. You could do a recap. You could do your whatever. Like I've seen your post and I'm like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. It's great. And I'm also like wishing you more travels across Canada,
Yeah,
which is, and
here and
hopefully to the States too, right? Yeah, yeah, for sure.
the more that we just grow and the more that we share and the more that we at the end of the day, I'm not competing with anybody. Do you know what I mean? And I think, which is very funny, here we're growing these children to compete and to be the best of the best and blah 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 blah. But parents, I'm really not interested in competing with you. I'm interested in helping you, helping your daughter, helping your son, um, get the type of quality that is warranted to get them the attention that they will need to get to that next level. Because let's
Yeah,
face it, as Canada as a whole, we're behind. We're just behind in that field. And the closer you get into, the middle of Canada, it's even more behind. But it's the more that we share as opposed to judge or let the ego get involved or whatnot. I think as parents and as mothers and fathers and guardians, we really at the end of the day just want what's best for our kid.
yes,
And perspective, from the social media perspective, from the chasing scholarship perspective, all of those things, we spend so much money and so much time into our kids learning how to play this game that we're not preparing them for the life that consists of what comes with this game and the level of responsibility that these kids will have and the level of pressure that they will have when they get to that next level. It's no joke. um,
it's hard. It's a lot
yeah,
more mental work than just the physical. And I agree, just having the right people around you with the right mindset, and even when you don't feel like it, that they're okay with it, I think that helps. And I
right,
think some of the resources like you provide is amazing because it lets them know, hey, just I'm going to stream it for you. Just enjoy the game and let them go through their
yeah,
journey. You can talk about it afterwards. So it's not, the pressure is not on you as a parent, but you know that, Desiree's going to get you covered. She's going to make sure that you get your footage, you get your videos, and this is the package that you get. And I love that you have that passion for it because like I said, if I'm in a game, it's hard to do both. You can't record and be cheering and screaming at the same time.
yeah,
Sometimes you do have to source out professional help to be able to
yeah.
do that for you from an outside perspective. So maybe where I will see, they may not see. And sometimes I don't know, you've probably gone through with your kids where you may tell them about a certain move and they're like, that's not it because I'm looking at it from the left side, but they're seeing the game from the right side, and whatever the case may be. But when you have that different angles of your camera supporting them, they can always go back and review it and see it, and that's one way of also getting better, right?
100%. And I mean, what we've learned along the way is footage doesn't lie. Footage does not lie.
Yeah.
So,
Only
um,
if the refs will accept replay, because I always yell, "There's replay. I have camera. I have recorded," but I
I,
never go back. Only in the pro.
I suppose, right? So, but it is true. Footage doesn't lie, but know what's good footage. Know, and sometimes it's okay to outsource it. It's going to happen more and more. I think COVID changed the landscape of our game entirely. Coaches are going to depend more and more on footage. And they will be searching and stalking all of your social media platforms. All of the ones that you think that they won't go and see, they will.
You will see.
And that they're looking at your tagged photos. They're looking at what your name is on your spam account. They look at all of it. And you know what? To the coaches that do their homework and do look at all the kudos to you, because you're getting a really good athlete when you go and choose to recruit. And sometimes that recruit might go to a smaller school, a lesser known club, might, have come to basketball late, had a major growth spurt and was, took some time to get their new, their new body underneath them before
Body
they changed.
adjusted.
Right. Like there's so many
Yeah.
things along the way. And I think the pressure that the athletes put on themselves, the coaches and sometimes put on them, and their parents should be put on them too. I would say that I'm a much better parent to my younger child, because I did it with my first child first. And so it is a learning experience along the way. And your kid may not have to fall into every other's path that this athlete did or this kid did or this kid. Because let me tell you, there is lots of avenues to take, and your path may be different, but it'll probably be one of the best experiences of your life. And you deserve it, because literally only 1% of the world is going to do what you do.
Yeah.
And it's not easy.
Not easy. Wow. Well said. Oh my God. This has been a great conversation. Honestly, you're a gem. Honestly, what
No,
you're doing.
yeah.
Calgary, Alberta, all of it is definitely blessed to have you there with everything you're sharing, all the content you're doing. And we're so glad that you were able to come to Ontario to see how we are here and how,
Loved
I
it.
guess, crazy it is here as well, too, but it's good and bad. It's
Oh,
amazing.
was out there. I was told by a lot of the coaches and a lot of the people that I met. I mean, I know you were talking to, was it Jor? Is that how we say it
Yeah,
from last?
sure. Yeah, it's your sports. Yeah.
I had learned from multiple coaches, showcases, whatever, that Brampton is the next thing. Like Brampton, what they're doing in Brampton, I know about in Calgary. So that's pretty cool. Um,
Nice.
so that's a really good step, is the more that we share with one another and the more that we have honest conversations and the more that we recruit and promote the mental game as well as the physical game, as well as the effort focus that it takes to do this, uh, you're only going to create the better change,
Nice.
whether
Yeah.
it's sport, what these athletes choose to do in their short career that leads to their next career. Like there's lots of opportunity in the boys and girls sides of things, especially with what's going on in Canada now. So we're on the right path.
We're on the right path. I love it. I love it. COVID in some ways was a blessing to some. Not to downplay it, but I definitely agree. It did help with the other pivot along the pandemic pivot, as I've been calling it and all.
Right.
It's been great. And overall, I know you're in Calgary or Alberta and we're here, but for me, I like support all across the country and even some parents in the States. Is there anything that you need from the ballroom community that we can do to support you and She Plays?
I think really not, for me, it's like more of an apparent side of it. Not even necessarily what I do. It's I've been in this industry for a long time. I've seen all sides of it. I've seen all clubs. I've seen schools. I've seen all parents. And really, these kids just need their parent a lot of the time.
Mhm.
And as a parent that is in this field, it is a hard thing for even me to do, because I am a fan of the game, of the sport. I want what's best for them. But I have learned along the way what's best for my child doesn't mean it's the best for your child. What my kid needs to work on right now doesn't mean that your child needs to work on it.
Mhm.
Like, it is different, and what your child or athlete needs to be respected as well as also cherished, because that means your kid's talking to you. And if your kid's talking to you, you are going in the right direction, because I don't know an athlete that plays at the next level that didn't come from a community of supporters, not just a great mom and dad, like a community of parents, teachers, coaches, And I think that the more we share, the
Mm-hmm.
better it gets.
I like
And
that.
we don't need to keep it close. We don't need to, like, I'm not going to show you what I did at this practice. I'm not going to show this game footage with you because blah, blah, blah. No, no, the landscape's changing. And that might have been the way that things used to go. But look at how much we've evolved in the last 2 years. And uh, the more people that are successful at adapting to the changing culture will have more longevity in this game because it's more than just being an athlete. It is the full package and the support that we now talk about when we talk about the mental health and that side of it, and injury prevention, injury rehab,
Over
overuse,
years, yep.
too much training, too much playing. Like, you want to enjoy every minute of this game because it is a short career. And I believe that playing any sport at this level is an opportunity and a privilege. And it should never be taken for granted because COVID taught us that it could change like that. And,
Yep.
and an injury could take you for a year. Well, what are you going to do about it? You spent 5 years, 6 years perfecting your craft, working on your craft. Are you going to give up because it just got hard? No, no. You're going
Don't
to get
give
back
up.
up. And
Don't give up, like you said. Stick with it, which I wrote it down. And then to round it off, I know I asked serious questions. I'm so grateful that you share so much knowledge. I learn every time I talk to someone, but I learn even more with you with the comfortability from your knowledge and experience and just the candidness of it. It's amazing. But you've been pretty busy over the last couple of few months or so, back and forth and everything. So what is the one thing that you have done for yourself?
you know what? After I was actually out in Ontario, that was also when my daughter was moving to another city, another school, and I had to do a hard stop. So, plus my other daughter played on the provincial team, and then she also played on the Alberta Indigenous Games team as well because I'm half Indigenous, and so therefore she's now going at the National Indigenous Games. So it was just one thing after another, and we as a family just had to go, no, not going to go to that training. I'm going to turn off the TV for a little bit. I am going to take a hard stop. And I don't think there's anything wrong with a hard stop because if
Good.
you're not taking that rest, whatever that rest may be, because some people's rest might look different than another person's rest. And
Mm-hmm.
that's totally cool. Some people need a day, some people need a couple weeks. I needed a couple weeks because I was going through, oh my gosh, my baby's moving to another city. I'm not going to see her every day. As a parent, that's a whole other thing when they move away. We could have another podcast about that later.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Okay, that's good though. Yeah, I think you're froze a bit. Hold on, your volume went down. Let me just pull it up. Yeah, hopefully people can hear me. No. Okay, now I can hear you. We paused there for a bit, but that's
Oh,
okay. That's okay. I saw your
sorry.
mouth moving, which I'm sure you're sharing great knowledge as always, which is awesome. We're so animated. It's crazy. That's good.
Uh,
And then you're already given so many advices, and one thing I always ask everybody, because you're out there and you're doing great things, and let's say there was to be a movie or a story or a Netflix special on Desaray Regier's, and I said your name right? Regier or Regier?
everyone messes up the last name all the time, so nicely done, Gifty.
Regier. Awesome. The life and times of Miss Desaray Regier. What would it be called, and who will star in it?
Oh my goodness, the fact that you even just brought this up, because it was one thing I was like, okay, I want to touch on this thing, is you brought up just even Netflix, because I'm a huge sports documentary person,
Same
and if
here.
you look
Yeah.
you look at the documentary pages in any like Crave, Prime, or Netflix, you'll see like one female sports documentary to like literally 100 of guys. And my true go-to favorite would always be Sandra Bullock because she did The Blind Side so good, so good.
I can see her
You know,
playing you. Great.
right? Well, it's
Yeah.
just she never played football, but she loved that game and she loved her kids and she fought for what was right and she stood up to people. And I was like, yes, I think that's it. I think she might be a little bit shorter than me, but it's okay.
That's okay. Camera angles. They'll figure it out. You can
Right,
teach them. Yeah.
right.
You can do it. Thank you so much, Desiree. Honestly, this has been a pleasure. I'm so grateful to have come across you and get so much knowledge from you. And like you said, I'm wishing you so much more growth in this industry. I'm wishing you more expansion, representing in that sector, and letting the female voices speak for themselves and actually support the female athletes as well too. I know you do the boys as well too. I have boys, but I'm always a diehard feminist and women by heart as well too. But just understanding, like you talk about, the kids and the drop age of when they get out of sports. We just want them to continue to grow the same rate as a boy. So definitely kudos to you for putting that out there and let them be comfortable beyond where people thought they should be stopping. Definitely. It's a great thing.
Thank you, and I appreciate it. And I love what you're doing, and I love that you're sharing thoughts not just from Ontario. You're going across the country, and you know what? That's how we all get better. And that's how we all grow. Is what we do and how we communicate and what we learn from one another. And it is such a cool time to be a female in this industry. Whether or not you have sons or daughters, whether or not you play the game, whether or not. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm a fan, and I know you're a fan too, and I'm a fan of watching people overcome things and rise above their challenges and their circumstances. And, there's a stat on people, not just the 64% that leave sport, but out of those people that go and play collegiate and post-secondary education, 95% of that demographic becomes our future leaders, our future entrepreneurs, our future CEOs, and really at the end of the day, boss ladies, right? You're raising not just an athlete, you're raising a stellar
And
human
human.
being.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. And we'll leave it at that. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'll let you have it the rest of your Friday evening going.
Thank you.
And thank you to everybody that joined in. There were a couple of people that were saying hi to you throughout. But I didn't want to interrupt your thoughts because you were sharing so much good knowledge and all. But yeah, you were definitely getting a lot of emojis of heart and thank you notes and things like that. So congratulations. Keep it up. Wishing you continuous growth. And next year we can cross path again at Coach Mom or any other events. But digitally we're still connected, which is an amazing thing as well too.
Love it. It takes a village.
Yes, definitely. All right. Have a good evening.
You too. Take care.
Bye.